Good morning. Today is Friday, October 17th, 2014. And this is For the First Cup with Jules and Zorie on UCY.TV. Good morning, Zorie.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Oh, okay, waking up. It's
Oh,
cold
that's good.
here, so it's kind of, you want to just stay in bed now.
Oh, yeah. Hibernation mode has
hmm
commenced.
Yeah.
Mm,
So how you feeling today?
great, actually. Rested, slept.
All right.
I feel accomplished. I was cutting videos till 2 o'clock in the morning, but actually cutting shows, not videos, no video involved, just shows. But I got all the way up until Monday, so that's good.
All right.
So, yeah, I mean, not that that means my work is done. That just means I got a leg up so I could do all the other things that I have to neglect doing every day. So, it's awesome.
It's just circle.
It is the hamster wheel,
Yeah. Running and running and running, and it seems like, am I ever going to get there?
which I never will.
True.
So, anyway, let's talk about something that has been going on. I don't know if anybody watched anything about the second Ebola nurse, but this is getting to be like a comedy of errors beyond comedy of errors. Have you watched anything about the second Dallas Ebola nurse?
A little bit, and you're right. This kind of incompetence is unheard of. I mean, how long has this been going on now?
Since March, we've been watching the outbreak, and I heard
Right.
someone the other day saying that it actually really started percolating back in like December or November last year
And
in
they're still not
Africa.
prepared. It's nuts.
Well, I don't even think it's they're still not prepared. This is an absolute 100% utter failure on purpose. It has to be. It has to be. I mean,
I don't see
we are
how it
putting
couldn't.
all these people now between Ohio and Dallas. We're telling them to put themselves into self quarantine.
hmm
The city of Dallas did not, they voted to not declare a state of emergency yesterday. Even after they shut down, I'll have to look. Hold on one second. I'm just sharing this. I shared a story on Behind the Curtain last night about all the schools that closed down yesterday in and around Dallas because of the children that had gone that were connected to the second nurse who
hmm
traveled to Ohio to go with her bridesmaids shopping in a wedding store full of people for 3 hours. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And then traveled on two planes, one there, one back. And then at first they only thought, well, maybe we'll track down the people on the way home. And then they're like, oh, but wait. She
Yeah.
only went like a few days before. Maybe we should track down all the people on the way there. So, I mean, that was another couple hundred people. This is just, if this is the response that federal officials, and I've said this before, in any corporate environment, like for getting a pistol permit here, it takes 9 months in New York State, right?
Right.
I'm sorry, but if it took me 9 months to process one freaking piece of paper, I would have lost my job 8.5 months ago.
Right.
Okay? So we're paying all these rich, smart guys in the CDC
To do nothing.
to obviously do nothing, bump into walls, be some new comedy reality TV show, but we're putting people into self quarantine. Where's the hazmat team?
Yep.
That's what I want to know. What, I mean, yeah, I've heard a couple shows now where people are like, oh, if they come with the quarantine facilities, I'm not going. My family and I aren't going. Well, no, but you'd hope the other people would, don't
Right.
you? I
Right.
mean, especially if it's something like this, and if the disease is real, which I'm not saying that it's not real, but the spread, even if this, what they're doing right now is working on so many levels as far as even if it's not real, psychologically it is.
Right. People and self quarantine. Okay, well, you're gonna run out of some food. You're gonna go out to the store. When you get hungry enough, it's just, or someone will think, oh, I gotta go here. I mean, this is ridiculous. And what have they been doing all this time since Homeland Security was created?
Well, obviously watching porn.
Yeah.
I just saw something the other day that they had to pass some sort of bill to
Right,
ban
that they
federal
could
employees from
from
watching
watching
porn.
at work.
Like, wait, so if you're a federal employee, well, if you're in Congress, you can insider trade and watch porn
Right.
on the taxpayer dime? How?
What
I
a
want to run
job.
for Congress.
This is, and isn't the airport still open too? I mean, I hear
Yeah.
they're talking about it, but no one's banned,
Five
banned.
airports, they were doing enhanced screenings, which meant they were taking your temperature.
Yeah, right. The, I don't know. This is incompetence at its very height
Well, I think, man,
by design.
the pitchforks and the torches need to come out, and all these people need to lose their jobs.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, probably in the middle of a crisis isn't a good time, but maybe we should have thought of this before. I mean, this is the biggest new do nothing Congress ever in history. The president has the lowest rating of just about any president ever.
And he can't seem to make up his mind about anything.
They're
Definite.
bankrupting the country. They got us in 10,000 wars now forever and ever. We got terrorists popping up like whack-a-mole, all U.S. created, funded, and trained.
Yep.
And now we got this outbreak that we can't seem to get out of our own way with. I mean, they all need to be imprisoned or at least fired.
At the least. I don't get it. I
mean, we've sold the entire country to the corporations.
Mm-hmm.
You know how horrified I was to go to open house the other day? And I had a few words with the teacher about some things. Yeah, and I got to tell you, I've never had a teacher who was standing against the board, like sliding away from me. Like she all she wanted to do was get away. And I wasn't being mean, and I wasn't being even forceful. As being
you were probably asking questions no one else ever does.
Yes, I was asking hard questions that she told me she was not at liberty to answer, and I had to either speak to the principal or the superintendent.
Not at liberty to answer?
Yes. They are putting... I actually saw in New York State, one of my old friends was an English teacher for many years in New York State, and she had posted something about this new Common Core gag order that they are putting on teachers that I guess the New York Teachers Union is now suing the Common Core. I don't know what group it is that's taking care of all that. That's the feds. Well, hold on.
A gag order?
Yeah, a gag order, not allowing them to talk about tests and test results in their entirety because it's so hard to write test questions.
Oh, you don't have a right to know.
Right. Well, it's so hard to write test questions that if we let you give out all the test questions, even if students got the questions wrong and they wanted to know, you know what I mean, that next year we're going to have to write new test questions, and that's going to cost us too much money. So instead, we're just not going to let you talk about the test questions. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's when I started, after I read that, that's one of the questions I started asking her is, what happened to Regents?
Right.
I got my Regents diploma, and I did quite well. I said, and I'm sure you got your Regents diploma. So is this bumbling new plan, that's what I called it, to replace Regents? I said, you know, why? New York State, despite all the high taxes, New York State was always very highly ranked in education because we had high taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our taxes went into education. I said over the last 20 years, though, a lot of my friends who became school teachers are no longer school teachers because what you guys have been doing to the educational program. I said, and so now you mean to tell me that with our great New York State standards that we used to have, and we weren't following anyone else's drum, we had our own standards that were above the country standards for education. Now we're lowering our standards to, she's like, but it's the same now in 43 states. I said, and I want my educational standard to be the same as Florida or Alabama, right? I
Right.
want to inspire my kid to go to community college, right? I said,
Hmm.
I went to a university. I was an engineer. I was in advanced English and math, and that was with the Regents program, not with the Common Core. I said, last year, that math that you sent home, I sent a letter to the teacher saying that I want you to show my kid the right way to do addition. That crazy Common Core math. Have you seen any of that?
Oh God, yes. It's so ridiculous. It's 104 steps to get something that you can see
Yeah,
in
and the
three.
kids were so confused. And I mean, we're talking basic addition through
Hmm.
all these crazy, like, they were all like these tricks that they were doing, and this and this and this and this and this. I'm like, what on earth is this? Here, let me show you this way. And my daughter goes, oh, that's easy. And I
Hmm.
mean, bam, 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 bam. Now she's doing it in her head. I'm like, what is it? So I said to that woman, I said, that math you guys sent home last year, and I kind of took my finger and did like a circular motion next to my head. I'm like, what was that? She's like, oh, we know. We actually got rid of that program. We're trying something new this year. Well,
But why? What's wrong with the old
exactly.
way?
And if that's any example of what Common Core is, get it out of my school. I don't
Right.
want, Bill Gates involved. Who are these people?
Well, they accepted the grants on the condition that they would accept Common Core, no questions asked.
Yeah. Well, no questions asked. And the whole thing with the principal at the beginning, she's like, well, we're gonna spend 10 minutes and we're gonna talk about our math program and the Common Core standards. And if you have any questions, you must speak to me about them. And she's like, I know that there's a lot of misunderstanding about Common Core out there.
Mm.
So, these, I don't know if they're getting kickbacks, if there's extra funding or what's going on, but they don't want anybody questioning this shit. And you know what? Like I said, here I was trying to be very conversational and just ask questions about what was wrong with Regents, and she couldn't even speak to me about that.
On a need to know basis,
Yeah,
or
well, she said, she's like, look, I do have my own personal opinions, but those are just personal opinions. For an official opinion, you need to go speak to the principal or the superintendent.
you're kidding.
No,
Then
she couldn't even. And look, that was after I told her that I had a lot of friends who used to be teachers in New York State who no longer are because of what's going on in New York State education. And so, I mean, she said that after that. So I think she said that because she knows that I know. They all
hmm
hate it. They all hate it. But there's nothing they can do.
there's never nothing you can do. I mean, eh, this is so far out there.
Well,
We're in
I
a
mean,
terrible
how
state.
sad is that? There, it's like I mean, we've always complained about the educational system being like entry level prison industrial complex,
Hmm.
right? But
Right.
I think they're taking it now to the nth degree because remember, even though it was teaching kids to line up, to follow direction,
Hmm.
here's my argument to that, and I know all the libertarians are probably going to hate me, but if you want to function in a civilized society, and they're all going to hate me. I still think that rules are necessary. Okay. I think that, nobody having any rules and everyone just doing their own thing might work in a small
Well,
population,
especially with children.
a utopia, but I
Yeah.
don't think as a global, you know what I mean? A huge globe full of people with no laws and no rules. I don't think that would work out too well. I
No,
think it'd
not
be
with
more
the
like the
population.
circus.
Yeah. But for
So, teaching kids to at least be able to follow rules, to
to fit
listen.
into society.
Right. And then you choose to remove yourself from society, right? But you need to know how to play within the borders.
Right.
Now, call me an opportunist at times, but I've always prided myself in being able to know how to play the system well if I have
Hmm.
to get what I want. But you got to be
What gets
smart to do that.
what gets me mostly about is the secrecy and the like this wall around it where you're not allowed to enter or object to it. And then when you do have questions, they have no answers for you.
Well, I think I'm going to have to call and make an appointment to go see the superintendent because you know what? That really pissed me off. To be put off and you're not allowed to give me answers. I pay your fucking salary. So I want an answer, just like this Ebola bullshit. I pay your fucking salary. Why isn't this being taken care of? Isn't that why we're being soaked to death with all these taxes over the years? Is to pay for all these services that aren't being done. And I know libertarians out there can say, well, if it was volunteerist, everyone would just chip in and take care of everything without being asked. Well, try running UCY.
Not with this me society.
It's a whole voluntary group, and everybody shows up and does a show. But I'll tell you what, it's because we have some good people, but I've had a lot of duds, too. Not everybody is going to be a good volunteerist.
Right.
I want to know where all of our tax money has gone to. Oh, what? Into bombs and killing people overseas. That's where it's gone. Oh, into the pockets of crooks. Yes.
Oh, and did you see where now they're calling in the reserves? The people
yes, I wanted to talk about that because you want to talk about how disturbing that is. I got a heads up over the weekend that somebody actually that I know is having to go to Africa.
No way.
And it's kind of disturbing.
Very.
But they're in the military. Now, I had a few friends that I had talked to beforehand, and pretty much it was believed that unless you were in AFRICOM, which is the unit that handles all of the African continent, you wouldn't have to worry about it. Well, guess what? Surprise!
Yep.
And it's not going to be the AFRICOM unit because they've already deployed those AFRICOM people wherever they are, regardless if they send them to the Middle East or if they're in Africa. So now they need to go outside of AFRICOM. And they're calling up people that are stateside. They're calling up people that are in Europe. And whoops, executive order yesterday. Obama decides that for those 3,000 troops that they were going to send over there, they're going to be not only National Guard, but reserves.
Well, no, this is on top of the 4,000 that they already sent. This is on top of that.
I was reading a story last night, and it said it was to fill that number.
Oh, I thought it was on top of it.
Hold on. We'll get that. But here's the thing. The reserves, those guys are already out of the service. They're doing their monthly thing. They're integrated back into life. They're all working their jobs in corporate America. And you're going to send these guys to Africa to go man Ebola clinics? They're going to be there literally helping them build Ebola clinics. Says, oh, well, these people aren't going to have day-to-day contact with the patients.
Oh,
well, I don't give a shit. You tell me, especially if you weren't in the military anymore, if you were just doing some Hody-Do reserve thing that, is good for chumming up and keeping up your skills and whatever. Now, I had a friend, one of my coworkers in the place that I worked for many years. He was one of our managers, and he had been in the service way back in the 90s. He'd been in the reserves. He's my age, mid-40s. And and we're going back early 2000, so it must have been around 2001 when 9/11 happened, because we were there. We watched it all at work when 9/11 happened, and they called him up and sent him back to Iraq. Guess what? He had to go to Iraq.
Yeah, they did.
He was a department manager. He was gone for like 6 months. They sent him. He was in active duty. They sent him to Iraq. So, and we were all worried then. We thought he was going to get blown up. He was pretty nervous. He didn't really want to go to Iraq. But could you imagine now? And I bet you they're calling him up again. He's reserve, and he's, he's pretty high up there in the ranks. They're going to send him back to now Africa in the middle of the Ebola epidemic. Who the hell would want to do that?
And who's protecting us?
Well, besides that, maybe that's why all of our police are militarized.
That's what I think.
But all I'm saying is, who, regardless of where you are, if you're in the service or you're not, who the hell wants to go to Africa?
Right.
Nobody. In the middle of bleeding, highly contagious shit? Hell no.
And no one has still said definitely if it's airborne or it's not airborne. That's
Well,
in the air
here's the
up
thing. We talked about this a few days ago. Airborne can mean so many things to so many people. I had said this at the very beginning when they were questioning them at the airport. When you talk, spit comes
there.
out of your
Right.
mouth and
Yep.
that goes into the air, and the person you're standing next to breathes those spit particles. So there
Right.
you go.
Yeah.
Here, I want to read about the schools first.
Okay.
I've been following DFW's page. That's the Dallas Fort Worth. They have a whole Ebola section that they've been publishing anytime there's new news that's been coming out from there.
Mm.
If this will load. Well, while that's loading, let me see if I can find the story. Here's the one about the reservists from Politico. There were a couple of stories yesterday, actually. All right, here's the one about the school closures. School closures and cleanings over Ebola concerns. And I know we weren't even going to get into Ebola today. I want to get back into the rest of the DNA stuff, but maybe we'll have to save that for Monday because there was a lot of
Yeah.
stuff that happened over the last 2 days that I've just kind of ignored, plugged my ears and went la, la, la.
I know. You just get so overloaded.
Right. I have to ignore stuff for a couple days and then come back to it when I'm not saturated. Several North Texas school districts, let me count, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like Lake Point Elementary, North Garland High School, Schrady Middle School, and Davis Elementary School. Oh, and Ruth Cherry Intermediate. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 schools. Several North Texas school districts are responding to Ebola concerns after learning students or their parents have had contact with one of the nurses diagnosed with the disease. They decided to close Davis Elementary and Ruth Cherry Intermediate on Friday for an extensive cleaning. Those two schools are attended by the children of a Texas Presbyterian healthcare worker. The parent and children have been self-isolated since October 14th, a day after FAM, which was the one nurse that was diagnosed with Ebola. The other school districts will remain open. And I actually saw a copy of this letter. Royce City School District sent a letter home to parents saying the parent is quote unquote low risk and showing no symptoms, but the voluntary isolation is being done out of an abundance for caution. Now, here's the thing. So you know that this one nurse, right, the second nurse, and she had treated Duncan as well, had flown to Ohio. Apparently she was an Ohio State graduate at some point and visited with family. I guess they had also said that some of her family worked at Ohio State University. Then she got back on a plane and flew back here. Well, then we find out, first of all, when I was reading some of the initial announcements from the CDC, and let's take a look. Let's talk about lying bastards.
Oh, they've been lying all along.
Yeah, when they mentioned that she first got it, they said there's nothing to be concerned about, and they didn't even mention she'd been on a plane.
Right.
And with all this Homeland Security and tracking, they didn't know that she'd been on a plane. They didn't run her name across their cross-meshed, hashed databases through the fusion centers to find out where she'd been. Right?
Or you can just ask her.
Well, yeah, I guess. But I mean, don't they make out they have all this great tracking technology and we can't even track one Ebola nurse for like 4 days?
Mm-hmm. It leaves you dumbfounded, I tell you. And it seems like mostly the CDC, all they're trying to do is cover their asses over and over and over.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just. And then there's also a lab worker self-quarantined on a cruise ship.
Well, I got the cruise ship one. Yeah, I don't know. Was that a lab worker? Because here's the
Said
thing.
lab
My,
worker.
my family's here from Australia still, and they're on the last leg of their trip. And guess where they are right now?
No.
On a cruise ship. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
They were in Washington. They went to New York City. Yeah, but I was crazy, mind you. My family's not speaking to me right now. 'Cause I'm crazy over this Ebola thing.
Right. Well, you should be. This isn't, you know,
Well, here's my thing. I'm like, look, I got a little kid. I don't want my little kid to get Ebola. So I don't give a shit what you do or who you go visit. Go ahead. Just don't put my kid at risk. And my mother says to me, "Oh, you need to live."
oh, jeez, you're
Okay.
kidding me.
I need to live. So if my kid gets Ebola and starts bleeding out of every orifice, I guess, you know what? I didn't put on my I should protect my child hat and use my common sense. The fact that I understand what's going on and I still am not putting my common sense hat on means that I'm really stupid then. Right? I mean, you
Yeah.
could pretend you're ignorant all you want, go for it, but I'm not going to pretend I'm ignorant. I'm not ignorant. I'm aware of what is going on. Here's the cruise ship in Belize. I don't know where my family is, but I know they're on a ship right now. They were taking a cruise.
Yeah, they have a
As the
clip there.
end, as the cherry on top of the American vacation cake.
Yeah.
Reports tonight that there are two individuals possibly infected with Ebola virus that in Belizean waters. Local TV station Channel 7 monitored in Belmo Pond tonight reported having credible reports that a couple from a Texas-based cruise ship apparently anchored off of Belize City is on a ship tender, unable to return to the cruise ship while being refused entry to Belize City to catch an air ambulance awaiting at the international airport to take them to their country of origin, the USA. The television station in its broadcast tonight said Belize health authorities contacted tonight have so far refused to deny or confirm the reports. Later tonight in breaking news, Channel 5 Belize is reported to have said, confirmed with representatives of the Ministry of Health, that they have indeed received a report that there is at least one passenger on board of a cruise ship, Carnival Magic, showing symptoms similar to that of an Ebola virus. Now, hello. If anyone remembers the 80s and the 90s, where did the outbreaks typically happen? On cruise ships.
Yeah.
There were all kinds of weird things that used to pop up on cruise ships. I've never been on one, and that's the reason. Though I loved Love Boat in the 70s, the Love Boat.
My daughter worked on one for a
Did
year.
she? I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like it'd be great, man. Out, sun, surf, playing
Eh,
shuffleball, drinking cocktails with umbrellas and a sun hat on. I would love it, but hell no, you're not getting me on a cruise ship. There's no way off, and anything could happen.
Yeah, there's a clip at this one site about that. Do you want me to pass it to you?
No, go ahead. You can read it.
No, I meant a video.
Oh, what is it?
It's a video from about the cruise ship.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. To Jules or in the
Send it to Jules. Yes, that's the computer I
okay.
played on.
Now I gotta find you. Oh, here you are. Okay. Yeah. It's crazy. So did they say that they were refusing to allow the ship to there it is. To port? Well, can't they
Did
land
you?
a helicopter and get this patient off without going into port?
I have no idea.
Would think.
Sorry. I was just reading the story.
Uh,
Didn't you just have a video?
yeah, I just passed it to you.
Okay, well, did it say that in the video?
I can't play videos for us to hear. I haven't listened to it yet.
Well, my whole Skype locked up when you dropped that to me, so I
Oh,
am
okay.
just waiting now because Skype is not responding. It says not responding, and it's just a spinning circle.
I'm getting that too since they want you to update it now.
You have to.
I haven't yet.
Well, that's probably why we're having problems right now. I made everybody upgrade it for the network because that was why all the everyone's calls were dropping, and then they're all crying they couldn't get on air. It's
Oh,
because
okay.
Skype changed. I mean, we've been talking about this for 6 months now. They told us they were going to do this after they sold Skype to Microsoft, and they were
Mm.
upgrading the whole back end, and everybody had to upgrade. And not that I wanted to.
Well, that upgrade I did. I'm getting a new one now.
Oh, well, those I haven't been doing.
Yeah, I
Just
haven't
the
done those. I did the other
generically
one.
speaking ones I haven't been.
Yeah. So that's just the one I haven't done. But
All right, let me pull. Let me, yeah, well, as long as you've done that one, that was the big one.
yeah, I did that one. They made you do that one. They
Yeah,
did it.
right, right.
That
They
it
wouldn't
let
even
you. They
let you
did it.
go on a call at
Right.
the end there. They would just log you out the second you tried to get in.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, actually, every single time I use Skype, just about, I get that message now that says, you need to do an update. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I don't. So,
Yeah.
this one machine had been since the very beginning, probably the end of 2011, I think was the last update I did on that. I had an old for UCY.TV that eventually, when you'd connect with some of the newer versions, you couldn't even do chat between the two versions anymore.
No.
It'd say, you have an incompatible version of Skype.
Yeah, that's when they finally did it themselves. Went on once and they just update. They just said upgrade in progress. So yeah.
All right, here we go. Let me. Says I answered. Yeah. All right, there we go. I don't know what was going on there. Yeah, I don't know. When you dropped that to me, it just started. Everything was spinning. All right, I think we got it. Let's see if we got this open now. Da, 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 da. I mean, here's my thing. A cruise ship is not where you want to be. And it
No.
sounded like they weren't even going to let them, like the ship was parked off of the coast. They had a medevac that they were going to fly him back in, except they wouldn't even let him into the country to go get on the medevac.
And can you blame them? I mean,
Hell no. At least
uh,
Belize is smart.
yeah, we're the ones that would be
We
just,
just have
oh,
the
come on
borders
in.
open. We're like, come on in.
Hmm.
Well, the question will be whether or not this page will load now. Here, I'll keep reading my story
Yeah.
that I have up at least. The ship was scheduled to leave Belize en route to Cozumel this evening at 5 p.m. However, it is anchored in Belizean waters near State Bank K. I haven't been down that way. I'm sure one of my friends that travels down there often probably knows the whole route. It says the Carnival Magic departed from Galveston, Texas on Sunday, October 12th, and arrived in Mahogany Bay, Honduras on Wednesday, October 15th, and in Belize this morning, which was yesterday, Thursday, October 16th. We have also confirmed that the Coast Guard has been deployed to prevent anyone from leaving the ship. Oh! Now that's pretty scary. So now they're all
Yeah.
prisoners.
Well, okay, when after, when he died, I mean, wouldn't you think they would have tracked down everyone, including people that did lab work on him right away? What? It's been almost a week since he died.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at least a week. At least a week. I don't know. Now my whole computer's saying that it's not connected to the internet. So I got a Zorie bomb, I think.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm on a different machine. My other machine's in the shop. Hopefully I get it back today. But this is a different machine than I ever used before.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I'm real good. It's going to be a killer when I get it back. New motherboard, new hard drives, and so it should be okay.
All right. I guess I'm gonna have to disconnect. I can't load anything, Zorie. So, Guess we're not going to listen to that one.
Okay.
Um, I see also Spain quarantines for the emergency protocol for dealing with a possible case of Ebola was activated at Madrid's Adolfo Suarez Barajas airport on a day that saw four people hospitalized, four with possible symptoms of the Ebola virus. The airport protocol was activated after a Nigerian passenger on an Air France flight from Paris. Oh no. Um, but who
Yeah,
had,
wasn't it said they had a possible case in France too? I thought there's so many stories out there.
I didn't see if there was one in France. I thought it was one of the UN workers that they were sending back or
Oh,
one of
okay,
the
that
aid
might.
workers. I haven't seen like an end user at this point in France that I remember. But we could hit the newest uploads here in a couple minutes and we'll find out. Um, Let me go back to where I was. The airport protocol was activated after a Nigerian passenger on an Air France flight AF 1300 from Paris, who had started his journey in Lagos, complained of a fever, headache, shivering, and sweating, causing the plane crew to alert Spanish authorities. The aircraft was carrying 156 passengers and 7 crew. By the way, that's something I want to bring up. So this chick from Dallas who flew to Ohio and then went wedding dress shopping and then flew back and the very next day discovered she had Ebola. That plane, I believe I read, made 5 more flights
Yep, 5 more.
before they cleaned it. And you had all that staff on the plane. I think they rotate staff on and off, but you also had contaminated surfaces and whatever. I mean, this honestly, I was talking to a couple people from the movement the other night, and regardless if this is real or not, they could make this ace of spades hit the table and get out of hand really fast to
And
forward their agendas.
what
Absolutely.
about the people in Ohio? I'm sure they went to lunch, while
Yeah,
they were
with all
there
the
shopping.
bridesmaids.
Hmm.
Hey, wait, it finally loaded. All right, hold on. Well, part of the page loaded. It looks like, though, I doubt this video is going to play. I see the video. I see it. Let's hit the play button.
Okay.
Maybe. Hey, by the way, this weekend, I think I am going to baseball bat this machine. I got a box sitting here with a computer in it that's been sitting here since June. I'm going to try to make enough time. Like I said, I tried to get all the shows cut last night. I stayed up till almost 2 cutting episodes. And no error occurred. Please try again later. So I guess we're not going to be able to.
Okay.
I think this machine has an issue with its network connection. The weird thing is that it's wireless. So can't and I don't know. The router's like right there.
Yeah, you shouldn't have a problem.
No, I shouldn't have a problem. So I am about at my wit's end. This would probably make a great storage machine that I don't need immediate access to the files when they're on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, mine was doing that, and it was my motherboard going out.
Yeah, and you know what? It does have integrated networking, and it's very possible that there's just a bad solder connection because
Hmm.
it seems to be random.
Intermediate, yeah. So,
Except when I want to use it.
well, you know what's
Then it
weird
doesn't work.
about here? My backup machine, it did the same thing. Now, as soon as I get my other one back, that
Are you there?
it happened like all my Yeah, can't you hear
Wow,
me?
you just disappeared. No, after I just said it was the other machine, this is the good machine just lost connection for a second.
This is
Maybe I shouldn't be talking about Ebola. Ebola, Ebola, Ebola. That must be the
uh,
newest keyword.
yeah, well, what I was saying is it's weird because my big machine died. One day later, my backup machine died. And both doing the same things. I've never had, and my laptop. 3 machines within a month. And that's just really weird to me.
Yeah, mine didn't die, but mine all became afflicted with some messed up affliction.
Hmm.
Seems to be halfway okay right this second. So you hear me knocking on wood?
Uh-huh.
Except for this one with the with the network problem.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I'll probably be doing that this weekend too, getting that other computer, everything back up on it. So,
All right, so I want to get back to Spain. Where I was
okay.
talking about these four people now.
Hmm.
The airport protocol was activated after, and I mean, how great that they have an airport protocol after Nigerian passenger on Air France from Paris who started in Lagos complained of fever, headache, shivering, and sweating, causing the plane crew to alert Spanish authorities. The aircraft, which was carrying 156 passengers and 7 crew, was taken to a designated area at Baraja Airport. The possible Ebola suspect then taken to the Carlos III hospital in Madrid, while the remaining passengers were allowed to disembark from the plane after having their details taken and instructed to get in contact with the hospital should they develop signs of a fever. Now, again,
Why are
why
they
are
all
they
in
letting
quarantine?
these people go?
Right,
Haven't they ever watched a Contagion movie? And that's the last thing you do. You don't let these people go to then
right,
go carry on with their lives. Unfortunately, if you've been exposed potentially to a hazard that could be this contagious as they're saying. And again, like we've said, we don't even know if this is, really happening or not. I think it is, but I heard other people say it's not. Whatever, it doesn't matter. It's
right. Because the threat
psychological.
is there.
Right. Well, that not only is the threat there, but they're playing the psychological card of fear and contagion, which will lead to the ace of spades and complete clampdown, right?
Hmm. I don't know, and it makes you wonder. That's what they're doing. They're keeping everyone confused because people think, well, if it was that bad, they would close the airports. And, people are trying to use common sense with this. And it's, one time you hear that it's horrible. The next time, oh, there's nothing to worry about. It won't come here when it's already here.
Well, exactly. And lots of confusing information.
Hmm.
Um, all right. So let's get back to this. After having their details taken and told to get into contact with the hospital if they develop a sign of a fever. Now, we're still going under the impression that you are not able to spread it until you show symptoms. I still say bullshit on that.
I do too.
There's a lot of things that you can spread around before you show symptoms.
Mhm. And
Thursday.
that Oh, and that too. One specialist says, "Oh, you can. There's a 8 to 10 day incubation." Another one says it's 21 days. And then what? Wasn't that guy only in the hospital a week? And
Uh,
that
I
nurse
read that it's
came down.
variable, Zorie, from 2 to
Yeah.
21 days. And he had traveled, and I mean, it was a few days before that he had carried their pregnant woman.
Hmm.
So there was a good like 10 days involved, but they were kind of ballparking the 21 days, but I've seen it now where they're saying anywhere from 2 to 21 days.
Right.
Which is just like any illness. I mean, it's not always exactly the same every time. Your
Right.
metabolism comes into play and your immune system.
Yeah.
Okay. Thursday also saw 2 further people taken to Carlos III Hospital, where nursing auxiliary Teresa Romero is being treated for the virus. Now, remember, there already is a nurse in Spain who was from one of the relief groups who was sent back, who has a. The first of these was confirmed as someone who had been carried in the same ambulance as Romero after she had originally been taken to the hospital October 6th. So not only was there a person on a plane, and then you already had the nurse who came from Africa, but then you have 2 additional people, one of whom happened to be in the ambulance with the nurse when she was being taken to the hospital. So, how interesting is that? Just like in Dallas, right? We had the ambulance crew that nobody paid a lot of attention to. And there's still a lot of confusion to me as to how many people really are sick in Dallas, because I saw that there was a second nurse, and then I saw a video about there being a third person, but now I don't see anything about a third person anymore in Dallas. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
The ambulance carried no special protection against the virus, and after taking Romero to the hospital, was not disinfected for up to 12 hours, during which it carried a further 7 people. The patient, whose health authorities confirm is not a medical worker, have formed part of a group of over 50 people to be considered low risk of being infected. By the way, I saw that I believe there's still 70 people who are being watched in Dallas. The third person taken to the Carlos 3 is a Spanish missionary from the San Juan de Dios order, the same as Manuel Garcia Vijo, who died in Madrid of the virus in September. You know, what's interesting is that when we first started following the Ebola in Africa, if you guys remember, I had read a story that it was unconfirmed, but I had read a story that had talked about a bunch of people that were leaving or who had left Africa for Italy and Spain. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And they were diagnosed, they were tested, they didn't have it, they left, they got there, they all got sick, and then they're like, oh, this is another strain. We weren't testing for this strain. Do you remember that?
Yep, I do.
And that got real quiet. So I just find it interesting that we have all these cases popping up now. I mean,
and
who's
then
this?
they disappear.
Yeah, and who's this missionary guy? Who's the guy that died in September?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess maybe there were a few more cases that I missed. It just seems like there's quite a few cases over in Madrid now. The missionary who returned from Liberia on Tuesday was taken to the hospital after developing a fever. Finally, a person who abandoned Sierra Leone 8 days ago had been taken to the hospital. See, this doesn't make any sense. I don't even know who these people are. Meanwhile, Ramiro State continues to give ground for optimism. Yeah, okay. The level of the virus in her body is diminished, so this must be the nurse. Her immune system is being able to control the infection. Her internal organs were improving, and there were clear signs for hope 17 days after developing symptoms of the disease. Now, I wonder if she was one of the recipients of the secret serum. I thought that I had seen something about that after all this time, right, and the dude in Duncan in Texas, we don't have any more secret serum. Then I saw a video. They just flew one over to like one of the European countries to go treat somebody.
You're kidding.
No. Let me go hit. I gotta get this organized. Maybe this computer will work now. Let me go hit Pigmine's page. I know I saw it on there a day or two ago.
It's like there's so many conflicts going on and so many different stories that.
I think it's by design.
Oh, I do too. It almost has to be.
Well, and not only by design, but look at how half-assed backwards most people are. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it, but trying to deal with the general public is like a comedy of errors on a daily basis. If you've ever had to do any type of support for any type of organization, you will know what I'm talking about. People are not very bright in general. I hate to say it, but they're not.
Right, and still no, they're talking about creating a czar to be in charge. They still don't have any one person in charge of anything, it seems like.
No, I think they even talked about that. If you go out to pigmynews.com, I have a tab called Ebola Outbreak. And I haven't actually done a visual to make sure we didn't miss any, but at least these are all the videos over the last, I don't know, I think this channel's been up, this new one's been up for about a month. So any video that says Ebola in it for the last at least month is up here.
And I was watching them, and it seems like conflict after conflict. One says one thing, and then, especially if you're watching a lot of them, like what you have up.
Right. I'll tell you what, these playlists, I am loving these. Anytime I get time, I go start combing through the list and building. And I have actually a whole bunch that aren't up on the website that are on the channel. But how helpful is that? Because they all, like I was saying, even with mainstream news, they jump from topic to topic. And, there's lots of bullshit in between the actual snippets of news that you get, and you
Mm.
got to decode what's real from what's crap. And so it's very difficult to pull out, the important points. But when they're all in a long string like this, one after
Makes
the
it
other,
easier.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. You could just sit there and click, 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 click. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed too, YouTube now mysteriously is having all kinds of funky problems where thumbnails aren't loading. Did you see that?
I
I
did see that.
Yeah, and I've noticed it on a few channels now. I dug into the Google News groups 2 nights ago, and I guess it's not just us. It's all over YouTube, but thumbnails aren't appearing, and so they're just showing either black or gray. And
Right.
it doesn't seem to be like at first I thought, oh, maybe certain topics are being, first thing you think is that they're being censored.
Or
But no, it isn't. It's just kind of
random.
random. And in some of the older links back from 2012, it appears they had this issue as well. And it said that they were having problems processing. So I don't know. Is the system being attacked? Is it being slowed down on purpose?
Yeah, tested.
Tested? Right. Remember, Cyber Patrol, I mean, I think they really are kind of testing to see what they can take down with a flip of a switch easily that allows
Mm.
us to share and communicate because that's our biggest weapon right now.
Right, and they're talking about this new internet and where you'll pay for fast, if you don't have the money, you will not be able to get, and you won't be able to get to certain sites. I think it's all testing different stages of heading towards that.
Well, I don't know about that, Zorie. I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but that's not exactly true for,
No?
no, not for what they were talking. Well, I'm not going to get off
Okay,
topic. I'm
yeah,
in the middle of Ebola
get
right
that later.
now. Okay.
Right, okay,
But that's a whole nother conversation for net neutrality,
right.
um, and internet too. Those are two separate things. I too,
True.
and all the Google Fiber and everything. And I was just reading this. Well, I'm going to get off
Okay, we're
topic.
going,
So
yeah,
yeah,
let's
let's
go
not get
back to
on that.
Ebola.
All right. So what I want to see now, I guess there's an Ebola infected nurse in Maryland. That right
Ooh.
now is I posted that late last night, but that looks like that might be one of the newest uploads. So hold the phone. Maybe this one will play. It's spinning. Let's go.
And
It's playing in slow motion. There's no volume. There's no volume. It's literally playing now. Like before, it wouldn't even play. I just get the static. So now this video is literally playing, but there is no volume at all. And it's CBS, so usually these do have volume. They're not just, rough cuts.
right.
I guess there's no sound. All right. Well, you know what? I can just blab for 2 hours. That is not hard for me. Anybody who knows me in person knows that. I make your ears bleed by the end. It's one of my superpowers. I think that's why the teacher was running away from me.
I doubt it.
I don't know. I've been told I'm intense. Actually,
You can't be.
that was one of the directors that I used to work with. I was a director. He was a director of IT. I was a director of e-business. And we worked for the EVP. And the EVP and I had been friends for many years. John was pretty cool, but he had told me that the one time that the IT director, he's like, Joel, you should probably just like back it off a notch or two when you're talking to, so and so. He's like, because he thinks you come off a little too intense. I was like, well, hey, when I'm into something, I'm pretty intense. That's right. Especially if you got me going on it and I've been digging into it. I can't help it. I get really excited and, it gets my blood pressure up. But hey, isn't that what you want? I mean, if I was all
Right.
like,
Right.
okay, would it even be worth listening to the show? 2 hours in the morning of me talking monotone. I don't know if that would be a lot of fun. And something is odd here because either this video is broken or it's me. I am now using a different browser, and normally that fixes it if there's something wrong. And nope, nope, nope.
But it's playing fine. It's just
Well,
going
it's playing in slow mo, kind
oh.
of. But it's at least playing this time. Oh, so the nurse that arrived in Maryland, I see another title. This is Nina Pham. Wasn't she the nurse that was infected in Texas?
I thought that was her name.
Pham, yeah. Why are they sending her to Maryland now up to one of the CDC facilities? Yeah, the first nurse who contracted Ebola at Dallas Hospital arrived in Maryland Thursday night to be treated at the National Institute of Health. And no, nothing has volume. I just played another video. Well, let's what's odd is that I cut all of the shows for the weekend on this machine last night, and before I went to bed, we had volume all day every day. And nothing's changed from 2 a.m. to 9 a.m.
You would think not. You were sleeping.
Yeah, I was sleeping. And there was nothing going on. All right. Let's try one more thing, because obviously the only solution is going to be to reboot this machine. And that usually doesn't work too well, though I have done it before, but it usually doesn't work too well during a show.
Yeah.
But hold on, we're going to try one more thing, because this is going to irritate me now. I've been trying to play videos for 20 friggin' minutes. Let's sing some music. Let's sing some music. Hey, by the way, it is Friday, and it is 10 a.m. here in the East Coast. We could do something like the Mexican hat dance.
I don't know. Is it copyrighted?
I think it could be. You think they could get me for that? That's us dancing, trying to stay away from the Ebola virus. Oh,
I'm gonna try it quick. If I have volume on.
All right. I'm trying now Internet Explorer. I don't use Internet Explorer usually, but in an emergency, I just may. Let's see if we can get this last one to play. I'm just wondering if it's some stupid thing that I'm doing right now because I'm still half asleep, or if it's really all broken, but it appears that I am not doing anything wrong.
I just tried playing that clip and I have volume, so.
All right, let's try one more. Let's go. Hello. And there is no volume on any of the machine. Hold on.
Did you volunteer?
Hey, all right.
Got it.
Yes, I did. All right, so let's go back to where we were then. What? So I guess IE is the charm for the moment. I really do think that sometimes this is just so damn intentional. Just make it as frustrating as possible, and hopefully you'll give up. But like I told you yesterday, they don't know me very well, do they?
Right. Yeah.
It's hard.
Because, most people would, and I think that's what they bet on.
Yeah, I think they do. All right, here we go. Oh, my God. I think I can give it up. I got to give it up. Everything is now frozen on the computer.
That is strange. I wish I could play clips, but
Yeah, I got half browsers now frozen open. Oh boy. All right. I guess I hate giving up. I hate giving up. But
you know you're not going to.
for the sake of the show, I might have to. Um, all right, here. Let's try a different one. Let's see about your risk of getting Ebola on a plane.
Dr. Suzanne Donovan is an expert on Ebola. She recently completed a month-long stint in Sierra Leone treating Ebola victims. What made you volunteer?
Well, this is what I do. I'm an infectious disease physician.
She's come with us aboard a 767 jetliner, now out of service, to discuss the risk Ebola could have to the American flying public. So let's say somebody has Ebola and they're showing symptoms, and you're sitting next to that person. Any chance you could get it?
I can understand passengers' concern about being exposed, but this is something that is transmitted with direct contact of body fluids.
If saliva or a bodily fluid gets either on the tray or an armrest, and you touch it, and then touch your nose or touch your mouth.
You're bringing up very rare scenarios, and I would say you're at greater risk of driving to the airport and getting in a car accident than being infected with Ebola by being on an airplane.
Dr. Donovan says Americans have little to worry about, from temperature and symptom screenings in many African airports to the low risk of coming into direct contact with body fluids of an infected patient. Now let's assume a worst-case scenario for a moment, that there is an infected person on board and that person is also showing symptoms, and you're the unlucky passenger sitting right next to him. Even with those circumstances, Dr. Donovan says the risk of you getting the disease is still very low. What about just the fabric on the airplane? Say, for instance, bodily fluids get on the fabric, get on the seats. What's the probability of you getting it that way?
It's very susceptible to cleaning agents. So even soap and water in Africa, we use bleach solutions frequently, but even washing your hands with soap and water would kill the virus.
Ebola is not an airborne virus, so unlike the flu, there's little concern about getting it from someone who coughs or sneezes on a plane. But the UN Ebola chief raises the possibility, however remote, that the virus could mutate and become airborne.
Well, that would be a game changer.
A game changer because Ebola could become much more infectious, transmitted just like the flu.
I've seen some of those concerns raised, and clearly any virus that became airborne with this type of lethality rate would be concerning.
Until then, there seems to be no reason to alter flying habits. Dan Simon, CNN, Victorville, California.
So, again, lots of bullshit. I mean, she says one thing, but we've talked about the whole mutation factor many times over. And how can they be so absolutely certain, since this outbreak is the quote-unquote worst we've ever seen? I just don't get it. And, we have people that are running around willy-nilly traveling who are sick, and then all of a sudden, oh, so-and-so came into contact with this one. I mean, that second nurse, there's still question as to whether or not she broke protocol or her protective gear did not protect her.
Right. And they make it sound so blasé, like, oh, you're not in no danger, go ahead and fly, no problem.
Well, exactly. I just can't even believe their laissez-faire attitude. I mean, not that we want them to crack down on anything. I think that that's exactly what this is going to be used for, by the way.
They need to be honest with people. We are adults. For them to think that we're like children and no one can handle the truth, it's aggravating. Don't cause a panic. But there is reason to be concerned, but they make it seem like, oh, there's no real concern here in this country as more and more cases show up.
Well, and it's not that they're treating us like children. It's all about the money. Remember, that's why they didn't tell
Right.
anyone about Fukushima, because according to Hillary Clinton, Japan's economy was the utmost important to the United States. So we're not going to make people understand what's going on over there. So it is just business as usual. I think that's also why they don't want to tamp back on any flights from other countries, because that's going to hurt our tourism dollars and
Right.
that's going to hurt the airlines. And I'm sure that the airlines, being Boeing and all these other companies that make these airplanes, remember, that's military industrial complex, people, and
Hmm.
that's, stock dollars that they could be losing if all of a sudden the stocks take a dive because there aren't going to be new orders on planes because they cut back on flights.
Right. What what's a collateral damage? When the buck is involved.
Yeah, exactly. We are collateral damage because we don't matter. It's all about profits.
Hmm.
I know that there are some people out there. I don't know if Juan Tamale is around this morning, but Juan Tamale, I see him pop up all over the place. Juan Tamale has a Facebook page that's called I Don't Have Ebola. I don't know if you became a member of that page or not.
No,
The
I did.
only rule to being a member of that Facebook page is that you don't have Ebola. And if you get Ebola, you have to leave the group immediately.
Right. I haven't seen that.
And I don't know. Juan always seems to have a lot to say about Ebola. I don't know if I'm Ebola'd out or not now. Um, I might be. I don't know what else is going on. So, let me. Let's hit. Oh, actually, there was one yesterday. I posted a story on Nick's site yesterday on the anti-media. It is theantimedia.org. Nick is really kicking some ass with that page, by the way. If anyone, if you haven't been out there yet, you should definitely check out their site. He's got a couple really great guys that are writing for him now, and Brandon posts some stuff up there. I saw Madison was posting some stuff up there. I've been posting some of the Pigmine videos up there. I actually wrote a story probably about a month ago now about one of the brutality cases. I don't remember which one it was, but I had done some real digging in court documents and came up with some details that I hadn't seen anywhere else. So I wrote a story there, and I don't even remember. It got like 600 shares on Facebook. I was like, holy shit, for a story I wrote. It was just insane. But I posted a video there yesterday afternoon, and it's got a couple thousand views already. Let me see. What's probably the easiest way to get there? I don't think I have it up anywhere. And we can go back to like police brutality for a few minutes. That tends to be more fun than bleeding out of every orifice.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Well, maybe not. I have to tell you, the show is getting very difficult for me to be doing.
Wait, did you? I just come across this where it says a male passenger who died after vomiting on a transatlantic flight from Nigeria to New York sparked panic. He could be carrying the Ebola virus. However, initial tests on a 63-year-old man showed that he tested negative to the virus. I hadn't seen that one.
I didn't see that, but just because you
Yeah,
throw
it's
up,
on RT.
just because you throw up, right, doesn't necessarily
Right.
mean
But
you
he
have.
died.
Well, I'm sure there's all kinds of things that you could die.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
he was majorly dehydrated. Even from the flu. My old boss's wife at 45 died from the flu, and it was because her body became majorly dehydrated and all of her organs shut down.
Yeah.
So that doesn't always mean. But no, I
Right.
did not see that. So that was
Yeah.
going to New York City.
Right. It says the man had boarded a flight at Lagos Airport in Nigeria which was bound for New York, John F. Kennedy Airport. However, once airborne, the man complained of vomiting during the flight and was sick in his seat. He died sometime before the plane landed at JFK, leaving around 150 passengers worried as to why he had passed away. Upon the plane's arrival at the terminal at around 6 a.m. local time, the door was left open, connected the plane to the airport building, which is a lot of the first responders found alarming. The source added, which was reported by the New York Post, medical officials at the scene conducted a cursory exam and alleviated fears that the Ebola virus was present, according to a local police source. However, Republican Congressman Peter King was so alarmed at the lack of scrutiny within the airport for dealing with a potential Ebola case, he wrote a letter to the Federal Department of Homeland Security demanding that airport officials should receive better training and there should be much tougher protocols in place for dealing with possible cases of the virus. King added that personnel from the Center for Disease Control, CDC, boarded the plane after it had landed to examine the body of the passenger. However, he called the whole process alarming. It was what I was told, a cursory examination. The Port Authority cops and personnel from Customs and Border Protections were there, and they were told there was no danger because the person did not have Ebola, King said, according to the New York Post. But the concerns was, how could you tell so quickly? And what adds to the concern is how, hold on, my page just left. Okay, I'm back. Okay, but their concerns was, how could you tell so quickly? And what adds to the concern is how wrong the CDC has been over the past few weeks, King added. Screening for Ebola virus has been in place at JFK and other airports around the United States since October 11th, with travelers arriving from Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, where the virus is most prevalent, being targeted. One of the first people to be screened was Mohammed Dabo, a 22-year-old Indiana man who arrived at JFK from Guinea after a stopover in Paris. He said he was surprised by the intensity of the screening. I don't really know what was going on in there, but it was kind of crazy. He said, I sat down there for 2 hours.
Well, in New York, that's one of the 5 airports where they just started screening last week.
Right.
But remember, this has been going on for what? How many months? March 3. It's now 10. So what? 6?
7 months?
7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that guy died in flight. That just came up. There's about another paragraph and a half if you want me to finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. There is no direct flights to any of the 3 countries, so the Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection staff, CBP, are looking at trip information and checking passports. Staff at the airports have temperature guns at their disposal, as well as asking passengers from affected areas to fill out questionnaires. However, their effectiveness is challenged by Lawrence Gostin, who teaches global health law at Georgetown Law School. He believes such monitoring had virtually no effectiveness when used in Canada and Asia during the SARS outbreak in 2002. He adds that people were able to escape detection by buying regular medicines over the counter at a drugstore. Meanwhile, Dr. David Maybe, who is a professor at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, says that not everyone will be truthful when filling out the questionnaires, as they don't want to be delayed for hours, Reuters reported. A total of 4,493 people have died so far from Ebola virus, according to figures released by the World Health Organization on Wednesday. The first cases were reported in Guinea on March 22nd.
Wow.
So, yeah. And they're right. A lot of people are just, they want to get somewhere so bad that they would lie on a questionnaire just to not be stuck there.
Well, exactly. Who would want to be?
Hmm. So, yeah.
They want to come here because, you know what? We got the secret serum.
Right.
That's the scary part. I want to find that story too. If I can get one of these videos to play to give me a second to search, I want to find the story about the secret serum that they sent to Spain because I thought that was just a few days ago. Here, maybe this one will play. Wow, this is painful. Lawmakers push for travel restrictions. So there are actually lawmakers that are talking about travel restrictions, and of course the CDC is going, well, we don't really need them because this, even though it's the worst.
President Obama.
Oh yeah, look at it. Even though it's the worst outbreak ever, and this Obama is signing executive orders to get reserves and National Guard. I still can't even believe that shit, that they're going to send reserves and National Guard over to Africa.
Right.
You don't go into the reserves thinking I'm going to be sent into some third world country with blood and feces infected disease. That isn't what the National Guard and the reserves are for.
No, therefore, they're only supposed, I heard they were only supposed to be called in case, we are attacked. I mean, they're supposed to be preparedness for that, but
their overflow as well. I mean, like I said, one of my former coworkers did get sent to Iraq after 9/11 in the reserves, but they're typically retired. Mm-hmm. They are people who have real jobs now in the industry. Now, granted, they do have to keep your job open if you get called up and sent over. And you still get paid, I believe. I think they still pay. I mean, I know your benefits stay in force because the guy who got called up, his wife actually worked with us as well. So we got a lot of the skinny. They still had their benefits. I don't know if he got his paycheck. He might have because he was salary director. So they might have just kept paying him. Mm-hmm. But still, I mean, who can check out of their lives, especially in the economy that we're in now, and let's go send people. I just can't. It's one thing if that's your career and you're in the service and that's what you chose, but it's another thing if you decided to do reserves for the once a month practice and go hang out with your buddies, and the next thing you know, you're on a freaking C-130 going to freaking Africa,
right,
in the middle of an Ebola. I mean, that's hardcore.
It is.
That's pretty nasty. All right, so here, lawmakers push for travel restrictions over Ebola. Let's hear what they have to say.
Considering an Ebola czar, the person would oversee the country's response to the disease. That word comes with lawmakers pressing the CDC and urging a travel ban from West Africa. Nancy Cordes is on Capitol Hill with the mounting pressure on the White House. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning. And the president himself addressed the issue last night, and he had to because, as you said, pressure is mounting quickly from lawmakers. In fact, these are the statements we've gotten from members of Congress just in the past 24 hours pushing for travel restrictions. Most of them come from Republicans, but at least half a dozen Democrats want restrictions too.
President Obama told reporters Thursday he's not philosophically opposed to a travel ban.
Oh, God.
It's currently the judgment of all those who have been involved that a flat-out travel ban is not the best way to go.
That's the same position his CDC director took in the hearing on Capitol Hill.
If passengers are not allowed to come directly, there is a high likelihood that they will find another way to get here, and we won't be able to track them as we currently can.
But Republicans were not convinced.
We should not be allowing these folks in, period.
After the hearing, Colorado's Cory Gardner said the administration's position makes no sense.
Their reasons today are basically the same thing as saying that we should make sure that all children with chickenpox stay in school so we know who they are.
About what?
Hallelujah.
Yeah, somebody with some sense.
Well, yeah, who would think that, there would be sense coming out of Congress? But, geez. I mean, honestly, I thought there was something wrong with me. How are these people saying that there isn't a concern here? And, if they say it enough, maybe we'll believe it. At least some of these guys are going to come out, stand up, and risk their 2016 reelection. Or 2014. Right. Some of them are up in 2014. There's midterms coming too, don't forget.
And isn't Congress out right now? Because I've seen a couple of times when they're saying Congress should be called back in.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I did. Yesterday I seen it. It was Ted Cruz saying Congress should be called back. And I didn't know that they were out on break.
I didn't see that they were out on break. No. I mean, it's possible because, God forbid, we had Columbus Day.
Yeah.
Do they get that holiday? I don't know. But no, I mean, I didn't know they were out.
Okay.
And it doesn't look like they are now because they're all kind of standing around talking at the Capitol.
Okay.
All right, here, let's play the rest.
150 people from the Ebola zone, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea enter the U.S. every day. Customs officials are now taking the temperatures of those travelers at 5 of the nation's busiest airports.
Stop it.
Dr. Frieden testified the CDC will no longer wait for a positive diagnosis before dispatching teams to possible Ebola cases in the U.S. The agency has faced some bipartisan criticism. Diana DeGette is a Colorado Democrat.
I would certainly hope that here going forward, if a patient shows up saying he's from Africa and he's vomiting and he has diarrhea, that you wouldn't say, well, we don't have the lab results in yet. You would start treating that person like they had Ebola.
More than 24 nations have imposed.
And this morning, President Obama is considering an Ebola czar. The person would oversee the country's response to the disease. That word comes with lawmakers pressing the CDC and urging a travel ban from West Africa. Nancy,
hold on. And here's the other thing. This whole Ebola czar bullshit. What about Department of Homeland Security? Isn't that what that's about? Don't we have a whole section of military that deals with terror threats and bioterror? And haven't we been putting all kinds of money into this bioterror detection since 2001? And
exactly.
What the head of the CDC, dude? Who the hell is he if he's not going to be the Ebola czar? Like, why do we need? This makes
John
me
McCain
angry.
came up with that.
Well, I know we played that clip, but this makes me so freaking angry because again, where are these freaking people that aren't doing their jobs?
And they had unlimited funds. I mean, it was outrageous the amount of money that went into Homeland Security.
Well, for 13, 14 years now, absolutely.
And they can't handle
one crisis on the homeland. And there's not too much more going on, right? I mean, I'm not seeing all kinds of crazy shit happening everywhere. Why don't we employ some of these local units and get them up to speed? Like, I don't understand how all these nurses are going, well, we weren't trained. Did you see that? We didn't have any proper training.
Right. None of them,
Yeah. All right, here, we're going to play a little more.
Portis is on Capitol Hill with the mounting pressure on the White House. Nancy, good morning.
Good morning. And the president himself addressed the issue last night, and he had to because, as you said, pressure is mounting quickly from lawmakers. In fact, these are the statements we've gotten from members of Congress just in the past 24 hours pushing for travel restrictions. Most of them come from Republicans, but at least half a dozen Democrats want restrictions too.
President Obama told reporters Thursday he's not philosophically opposed to a travel ban, but
it is currently the judgment of all those who have been involved that a flat-out travel ban is not the best way to go.
That's the same position his CDC director took in the hearing on Capitol Hill.
If passengers are not allowed to come directly, there is a high likelihood that they will find another way to get here, and we won't be able to track them as we currently can.
But Republicans...
You mean our open borders?
Yeah.
Not be allowing these folks in, period.
After the hearing, Colorado's Cory Gardner said the administration's position makes no sense.
Their reasons today are basically the same thing as saying that we should make sure that all children with chickenpox stay in school so we know who they are.
About 150 people from the Ebola zone, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea enter the U.S. every day. Customs officials are now taking the temperatures of those travelers at 5 of the nation's busiest airports.
Stop it.
Dr. Frieden testified the CDC will no longer wait for a positive diagnosis before dispatching teams to possible Ebola cases in the U.S. The agency has faced some bipartisan criticism. Diana DeGette is a Colorado Democrat.
I would certainly hope that here going forward, if a patient shows up saying he's from Africa and he's vomiting and he has diarrhea, that you wouldn't say, well, we don't have the lab results in yet. You would start treating that person like they had Ebola.
Whoa, really? More common sense.
And okay, with all this, and they said, well, if we stop their flights, they'll come in some other way. Well, then why aren't we closing our border down south?
Well, exactly. And how else, really, besides walking across the border, how else would they get here from Africa?
Right.
And that's a long walk and a swim from Africa to South America and then all the way up.
In other words, they're telling them, hey, if we do ban, stop the flights, you can always come in down through Mexico.
Yeah, but again, still, especially if you're dying of Ebola, that's a long swim and then then walk. All right, here's the last minute.
More than 24 nations have imposed travel restrictions on people from the Ebola zone, but most of those nations are small African countries. There are a few Caribbean nations that have also imposed bans, and the World Health Organization has urged countries not to impose flat travel bans because it makes it so much more difficult to get care and supplies into the region. Charlie?
Nancy, thanks. Beyond Washington, America's confidence in the CDC is dropping. A new CBS News poll shows 60% of Americans have a fair or poor view of the agency. That is a sizable difference from a similar poll last year.
So they just don't feel good about the CDC anymore. I know I never did. After I read The Stand. And remember, too, right before all this happened, that seems to be like their modus operandi is how they do it. They start, at least in this administration, especially when they're going to put an agency up as a sacrificial lamb, they show all their huge failures, like leading up to then some big disaster, to make it plausible that they could be that effed up. Remember, we had smallpox vials sitting on top of filing cabinets for 30 years.
Right, and then the
right
H1N1.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, the outbreak that never was. But I'm talking like for the last 6 months up until this crisis happened, we had all these stories, one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, of these virulent materials in test tubes that didn't have proper chain of command, laying all over the place. Remember?
Like they were building up to this.
Well, they were building up to the failure, to the fact that this was an incompetent agency. Now, why? I don't know, unless they're just trying to make it plausible.
I don't know. And how does it make sense to anyone that it's better to leave the borders open so we can keep track of these people? If it's closed, we don't have to because they're not coming in.
Yeah, I wish, actually, let me see. There was a story that we never played, but I really wanted to play, and trying to think if it would be anywhere else besides on my Daily Dose page, and I don't know if I actually posted it elsewhere, but I'm gonna scroll some of these stories on this day. If you guys don't subscribe, anyone who's on Facebook, if you go to my Daily Dose of WTF, this is like the old school Facebook page from 2011, I think I started it when we used to do the show called WTF. And it is a mixture of, wait, let me kill Skype here. It's a mixture of articles. There's a few of us. There's probably 10 admins or so on the page. There's only a couple of us that really post, but any of the hosts that want to be an admin on it, just let me know and I'll add you. So anytime you find like a real like WTF story, it's a great place to put. But it's a mix of articles and videos. So I just finally got the website back up. There was a website at least for the videos, but once we lost that Pigmine 5 channel, like I lost everything. So you can go to dailydosewtf.com. So the videos are out there. Oh, you know what? Hello. That's where I should go. Because that would make it, if I had that in the playlist, That should be right on that site instead of having to sort between all the articles and the videos. Now, if I ever get time, I do have a whole article section that I can enable on the website as well. So I could like source the titles and feed them in. But right now, I have like 13 sites plus 13 Facebook pages and all the other crap, that I'm doing for other people. So it plus the whole network. So I really don't have a lot of free time. All right, let me just scroll because there was a story about the illegals coming across the border, and I believe they said more than 70%. Here they are. I found a. This is a WTF. Maybe. It's coming.
About 70% of the migrants caught at the Mexican border this summer have now vanished into the U.S. According to the Associated Press, the Department of Homeland Security acknowledged as much in a private meeting this week. The migrants were released and told to report to federal immigration agents within 15 days. As many as 41,000 never did.
What do you think of that?
That's crazy.
70% disappeared into the country.
And nobody knows where.
Nope. They're gone. Poof! I actually saw something, too, on one of those educational sites that I was on. And, we never talked about that. We actually started the show about the gag order on the Common Core, which to me is just... I was
That's
so
beyond
angry about that. I am going to be like a big asshole about this, I think. I think I need to be a big asshole, don't you?
Somebody has to because this is ridiculous.
Well, it's my tax dollars again. And what do you mean you can't talk to me about it?
I'm the parent. That
hello?
goes back into the state owns your kids.
Absolutely. So you know what? It might be time for homeschool real soon because I could do a hell of a lot better job teaching freaking math, and I've already proven that.
Yeah. I mean, because someone might ask the teacher to explain why they're doing this, and, they don't want that out. I don't know. It's just, it'll be interesting if you get an appointment with the superintendent and just to see what he does come up with. Why the gag order?
Well, I also, before I go there, I'm going to do some research into what we are paying the superintendent out of my tax dollars and then what he's done for the district.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be a shocker.
Uh-huh. Oh, I would guarantee you they're probably making six figures. I know that a superintendent's job is at least six figures, yeah.
Easy, yeah.
I would say maybe 100, 150 would probably be an easy salary to get.
Mm-hmm. And then, asking, well, what have you done to earn this money? Put a gag on the teachers so they can't say nothing. I mean, it's your child. You have a right to know what is being put into their head and why.
Well, exactly. Don't you want to know what they're teaching your kid? I know I do. And why are we going to some dipshit system when we had a good system? Maybe it wasn't perfect. And I know teachers used to complain about having to teach to the test and not use creativity and having kids think. But I got to tell you what, at least it drilled a lot of good shit into my head, like how to write an argument. I mean, it taught me, I'll tell you what, the English section of that, I could have very easily have gone to law school after my English degree. And when I took my original entrance exam for college, you have to do the English and the math. After having been through my high school English program in the advanced section, I scored perfect. Do you know that? I was not required to take English at all by my college.
Wow.
And that was why I decided to get my degree in it. Because I was like, shit, I don't need to take any of these, so I'll get a leg up. And that's what I did. But you know what? That was from the Regents program. Drilling the shit into my head. I practiced in high school on how to write a good paper, how to do research and do a research paper and prove an argument. That's what it was about.
What is the Regents project? We don't have that out here.
Regents was like Common Core, but it was New York State. It was New York State standards bodies that all schools in New York State had to conform to. There were topics and there were tests, and the tests were given twice a year, once at the end of the first semester, which was January, and once was in June. And we all had to take these tests. We all had to study for these tests. There were certain tricks to taking the tests, you know what I mean? And the teachers complained back then because they had to teach the material that was on the tests. But it was very well-rounded. I mean, anyone from New York that would complain about the regents, I think as a screw loose, it made New York one of the top education states back 30 years ago. Now, why we are ditching that? I mean, that was my question. Is Common Core in place of regents? And she couldn't answer that for me. That was the question that I had to go ask the superintendent or the principal.
Well, it's like Common Core seems to be cutting off any chance of a child like taking off and creating on his own, you know, and making them really think instead of memorizing these stupid formulas.
Right. And that's where the issues began in New York for my teacher friends. Because when we first started high school, we were still, the teachers had their latitude to be able to teach however they saw fit. And, you know, you had a loose set of guidelines for what topics had to be covered, but you used your own creativity. You got the kids involved, and it wasn't too standardized testing. The Regents was pretty much New York State's first foray into standardized testing. On the other hand, like I said, they were very successful at it because when I got out of school, you better freaking believe I knew how to write.
Right, like my daughter, I mean, she had a teacher that made a game out of science, which turned my daughter's whole outlook on science around. He was so engaging, but now they've taken that ability away from the teachers, you know.
They have, and now Common Core is taking it to the nth degree because there's putting gag orders on them for retard math. I mean, honestly, the expression that I made to the teacher when I was explaining that math from last year, like I opened my eyes real wide and started doing the spinny finger next to that. You know what I mean? Come on. I was an engineer, for God's sakes. And I mean, if I couldn't get it, are you kidding me? And it was second grade math, addition. I'm like, how the hell? It was the most convoluted, crazy shit I had ever seen.
And the fact that every teacher across the country has to be teaching the very same thing on the very same day. That's ludicrous.
I don't know about that.
Oh, I've been reading quite a bit into the Common Core. And so any child can go to any school. If they move or whatever, they'll be all on the very same page on the very same day. That is one of their concepts of it. And that to me makes no sense at all because not all children learn at the same, you know, level. And so how can you, what if someone's confused? What if you have students that don't get it? Well, you can't take time to explain it to them because tomorrow you have to be on this subject. Right.
Where's that? I'll tell you another thing that I noticed is that they got kids all working on computers now doing like CBTs, computer-based trainings, and they have little video games to help them learn and this, that, and the other thing. When I went to open house the other day, I guess there's shared little notebooks for the room, you know, those little 7-inch displays. And, you know, so I think it's 3 kids to a notebook, and I had everyone's name on a piece of tape on the cover. But those kids are like crack addicts. Now, my kid, no, because you know what? I don't let her watch TV. I mean, we do the hour in the wintertime after dinner. We have not watched TV in eons now because it's been summer, and I've tried to have her someplace every, you know, time that I can get out of here. And the computer is very rarely after homework time, and I've been teaching her, we've been making sure she's been learning Photoshop. Because she loves to draw. Yeah. Mm-hmm. My husband had a real old tablet from many years ago. From, you know, he did graphic design and stuff as for his education. That's what he went to school for. And so he had one of those little tablets, you know, that you can draw on, and it actually shows up on the screen. So he got that hooked up for her, as well the other day to Photoshop. So you know what? Let the 8-year-old learn Photoshop. You know how many people don't know Photoshop, and you know how powerful that tool is?
Right. And, they don't seem to be addressing the arts or talents like that, creativeness. They don't seem to be addressing it all in Common Core.
No.
And like you said, PowerPoint, that Photoshop is, you can do anything with that. You can make movies. You can, and yeah.
Well, not in Photoshop, but in the Adobe suite, you absolutely can.
Right.
And they're all very similar. So why wouldn't you, if you were going to have the kids on the computer, instead of putting them in front of
games,
stupid video games that then are going to groom them for the future, you know what I mean, to then get sucked into the video game mind poison, why wouldn't you be teaching them real tools that they could use in the business place, or they could use to start a little side career on?
Right.
I mean, they could make graphics and sell them online.
Or photography, yeah. There's so many.
There's some good money in that, for doing.
My daughter
stock.
started her own.
Yeah, well, you could
business.
even sell stock photography to some of these stock houses too. They pay good money.
Yep. So they don't. I'm with you. I think that it should be taught, in every school, because there's so many avenues that is used, and it's like knowing Excel or
or it's like being able to write well. It doesn't matter what industry you go into. If you can write well and you could do graphics, there are so many jobs in every industry that you can be employed in.
Advertising.
Well, not even advertising. I mean, just even, being a part of a division. I mean, if you can sway an argument, and that's what you're doing with words and images, if you can sway an argument, you can do anything. But apply it to making a kick-ass resume next. You know what I mean?
Or a presentation of anything.
To prove a point. Exactly. I mean, stuff like that, those are skills that you will never be sorry that you gained. Why would you not be spending time on that?
Yeah, it limits your abilities by not knowing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, the people who know how to do good graphics and know how to write are the ones who can sway large numbers of people.
Exactly.
Those are the type of people that we need out front and center right now, doing websites with lots of pretty pictures and lots of good research and lots of good news to get the truth out there. Those are the skills that make a successful website.
Exactly.
So guys, I'm telling you, I really think this Common Core bullshit, like I said to her, why am I aspiring to have my kid educated to go to a 2-year community college? And I said that really loud. And I'm sure I offended some of the parents in the room who were aspiring to have their kids go to a 2-year community college. But you know what? I went to a university. I paid for it myself, and I was on a Regents education.
Well, that's not encouraged anymore.
No, and became an engineer. So for God's sake, what the hell was the problem? And now you're teaching crazy math at 2nd grade that an engineer can't figure out.
Right. The first time I seen the first introduction I got into Common Core was in the math part. Now, I know they're teaching they're using it in history. I haven't looked into that yet. But the math, I just looked at that, just stunned. I had this video of this teacher up there going, okay, and she asked a question, and one of the people on the board answered it, in 2 steps. Then she showed that she had to go through 104 steps to get the same answer, and if they didn't go through the 104 steps, even if their answer was right, they got it wrong. And wait a minute.
They weren't marking hers wrong, but they were putting like big circles with question marks because she wasn't showing how she got the answer using their back-assward way. Because you know why? She's not using their back-assward way. She's using the right way that her mom showed her. And I told the teacher that. I said, why would I teach my kid some mentally deficient way of doing math?
Right,
exact way.
It's also time consuming.
And here's the thing. When she gets to advanced math, when she's doing, differential equations in college, this is not going to mean anything. So why would you even start out showing some convoluted ass backwards way?
Exactly.
That makes no sense. You're teaching them some ass backwards way that then they're going to have to unlearn.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that was their whole thing, and maybe that's why they gag order, because all these schools agreed to this before they even knew what the program was, because they gave them the big grants. Now in Georgia, they decided they don't want it. They have to pay back the grants.
So there is money. You know what? Yeah, I didn't realize that, because I'll tell you what. When the teacher said to me, she's like, well, 43 states are doing this now. And I said, yeah. And do you know how many of those 43 states the teachers have stood up and they said, no way, we're not teaching this. And they're now pulling it out of their schools. And she's like, that's when she's backing up,
Right.
But I figured there had to be grant money. That's why it's talk to the principal or the superintendent, and there's a gag order on teachers. No
big
shit.
Money. Big.
Well, I better look into that too before I go see the superintendent, where that money's coming from and who's getting it. Is it going to pay his salary?
Gates and there's two of them, main ones. But yeah, I read that and I went, oh, okay. But how? Like Georgia was the first one to step up. Now I don't know what other states have, but they're paying back the grant because they said no way. But they're trying to force them into it because they did accept these large grants way before anyone ever seen the program. I have it on my other computer. I'll be getting it back tomorrow. I'll send you some of the stuff that I got on it. But yeah,
there needs to be an assault on Common Core. I remember there was a video a while back that had actually had a parent going to one of these school board meetings and questioning. Do you remember that?
That was that same one I was talking about. Yeah.
And they dragged the parent out. The cops did.
Yeah, it was a man. It was
it was a guy.
Yeah, for questioning them, and he wouldn't shut up, and they dragged him out.
Dragged him out. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So you're not allowed to ask questions about what's going on with your child in school. How anyone is accepting this is beyond me. I mean, I would have my child out of there. As it is, I had a problem with the principal and certain teachers as she was going through school. She had one teacher that turned a film on every day, and he sat in the back of the class, and it wasn't even on the subject. And they failed all these A students. And I went in and had a big discussion with the principal, and I said, how can these girls go from straight A honor roll down to an F in one semester? And so the guy had tenure. That's another problem.
Well, tenure, I think, is something that's got to go as well. Again, we pay your salaries. If you don't do your job, you should be fired.
Exactly.
I don't know where all these people think that they're protected from this. In New York State is an at-will employment state. That means that a company does not need to give you any reason whatsoever for getting rid of you. Okay? Right. It's their choice. You are not protected. So how do we have all of these politicians and teachers and that are protected because of a union? Is that what it is?
Well, here
I think that's where the tenure is, in the union.
Tenure's always been with us here, but
I think it's part of the teachers union, is what I'm saying.
Probably, but and like this one teacher, he was not teaching them anything. He was showing them movies of things that didn't. It was a math class. But they couldn't, the principal said, well, we can't fire him. He has tenure. And I go, well, then you mean he can sit in the back of the class and not teach my child? And what's she going to his class for in the first place? That was their answer.
Right. Or have a geometry teacher that comes in smelling like vodka every day.
Yeah,
we had that. We had that. And she was so bad. She used to make mistakes, and people would point them out, and she'd go, oh yeah. We had the overhead. Remember the overheads with the plastic crank thing, and they'd write on them with the Sharpie marker, and they had the big light over them, and they then projected it onto the wall. It was called an overhead.
Yeah.
So she always used the overhead, and then she'd make these mistakes while she was half baked, and someone would point it out, and she'd lick her thumb, all grossy spit, and then she'd wipe it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and nothing, people complained till they were blue in the face about her, and there was nothing they could do because she was protected by tenure.
Yeah. And that's like the Supreme Court for life. These things have to go.
Uh-huh.
Period.
Well, I term limits.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, having these people, I heard someone saying that even president, they should skinny it down to one term. But I mean, it's the lobbyists that are causing these issues. I mean, these people should be wearing like patches on their jackets or whatever, so we could see who campaign funded them this time, who's getting, the promises paid back. But the problem is that it's not, none of this is accessible, at least in the government, to, Mr. Joe American.
Right. And they're supposed to be working for us, but why can't we get anything done that we want? That like we've been asking for term limits for how long? We've been wanting to
because
get rid
we don't
of
have the money to lobby.
Yeah,
right. That's what it is. If you have the money to lobby, you can make any palm slippery, and it does what you ask it to do.
Right. So why do we even vote? Since their votes are bought, they don't listen to what we have to say. They're bought.
I don't know, but Billy Gates being involved in this Common Core bothers me since he thinks robots are going to take all of our jobs. I mean, he's literally said that. So are you trying to turn my child into a dumb automaton, vaccinate the shit out of them, and teach them dumb stuff?
Teach them how to be robots to do work in assembly line.
Well, and there won't even be assembly lines.
Right.
They're going to be like nanobot children.
Yeah, I'll get that stuff to you. Yeah, but all the schools that have Common Core received huge grants before it was introduced.
Yeah,
and how crazy is that? How can our schools agree to accept a way of teaching without even knowing anything about it?
All right, here, we got to listen to this. We only got a couple minutes anyway. There's all kinds of them, but here there's a couple of them. Let's listen to this one first. Oh, or maybe we listen to a Q&A. I don't know. This might be just enough time.
A special edition of Q&A with Bill Gates. Our next question comes from Ariane Jahiri.
In an episode of The Simpsons, a character made the following quote about the future when addressing cadets. The wars of the future will not be fought on the battlefield or at sea. They will be fought in space or possibly on top of a very tall mountain. In either case, most of the actual fighting will be done by small robots. And as you go forth today, remember always your duty is clear, to build and maintain those robots. While such a quote is supposed to be satirical, do you think one day robots doing human tasks such as fighting wars will become reality?
Well, we already have the equivalent of robots doing a lot of things. If you look at how farming was done historically and how it's done today, those are mechanical devices that are helping us out a lot. If you look at what a telephone operator used to do or what a typist used to do, we are proceeding to replace all sorts of rote labor with robots. And this is a progression that with vision, with speech recognition, with greater mobility, will span to a lot of new areas, and
including warfare, which I think is the point that young man just made. And indeed, we have drones already. These robots flying over different countries, assassinating people. The future, according to futurologists who look at robotics, could be of tiny swarms, insect-sized drones.
They will be
able to infiltrate people's houses and kill them. And do you think about the future? Do you think about these kind of things, how it might look?
Well, today we have real insects invading people's homes. It's called malaria, and it.
Oh God.
So I have a strange obsession with the present. I don't see robots as something that will lead to more war. We have to be careful to avoid war. In general, the trend has been quite phenomenal in that regard. Violence in general, particularly of that type, less genocide, There's an unbelievable book about this by Steven Pinker that really talks about the trend and how positive it's been. But robots are a good thing. Let's just use them for something other than war.
Next question is related to that. It comes from Jessica Lee.
Do you ever think that artificial intelligence will ever surpass the human mind? And if so, how would humanity handle it?
Well, it'd be very humbling. In certain respects, computers are far faster than we are today. Multiplying, perfect memory. And it's this wonderful auxiliary tool that lets us communicate and create the ability to simulate things. Try out a new car design and see how that's going to work, or a new nuclear reactor. Look at how you would design drugs. Computer simulation is this mind-blowing advance that will increase the rate of innovation. And so, I do think that when the computer takes over certain tasks, that'll be tough for us. It will be a long time before you're matching the type of broad judgment that humans exercise in many different areas.
So that when you were younger, you predicted this could happen, that carbon-based life forms might not be unique.
Over time, the machines are going to get very smart. And like all modern things, we'll have to adjust to that. It's kind of an embarrassment of riches problem as opposed to the opposite that many people worry about in the future. And so I do believe it's a solvable problem. Now we have to avoid climate change and other problems before we'll even have this one to worry about.
Sure, but do you think artificial intelligence is doable?
Absolutely.
And how long do you think that could take?
Very hard to predict. At least 5 times as long as Ray Kurzweil says.
He mentioned Kurzweil. What do you think of that?
I know.
Oh, Billy Gates.
You wonder who's whispering in his ear, because some of the things that come out of his mouth.
Billy Gates is at the top of the pyramid, trust me. Mm-hmm. He and Kurzweil probably butt slap.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guess what, guys? We knocked another week out of the park. Woo! I can't believe it's over already. It is Friday. We got about 30 seconds left. It's dreary and cool here today. I hope it's sunny and nice where you are.
It is.
Make sure you stick around Friday night. We have Josh is on live every Friday at 6 p.m. and LaVon is on live every Friday at 11 p.m. Eastern. We also have Brandon and Daniela's replay that runs tonight and Dr. George Simon. So make sure you come hang out again tonight and everyone crack your poison. It's Friday.
Thanks for hanging, guys. Miles per hour.
All right, we'll catch everybody on Monday. I'll be around this weekend. Thank you, Zorie. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Take care.